The James Harden era is over in Philly. Daryl Morey's experiment has officially failed. Why is Harden forcing his way out of Philadelphia? Will this forever change his legacy? More importantly, how far back does this set the player empowerment era? Savage comments in China. James Harden didn't just ask for a trade, he publicly called out his boss, Philly GM Daryl Morey, in the wildest way possible. Oof. This is the pro-athlete version of dumping a tub of ice into a fryer before quitting your job. Harden dropped this line while on tour with Adidas in China.
Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of either.
That was intentional, right? Don't forget that Morey's stock is pretty low in the country after his controversial 2019 tweet. This does beg the question though. What could this auditorium full of teenagers possibly have asked to lead Harden to give one of the most savage quotes ever by an NBA player? Now, the liar comment probably came because of a promise that Morey didn't keep, a promise he wasn't allowed to make. When Harden signed the previous contract, he took a pay cut. The prevailing belief is that Morey gave him a wink-wink handshake deal at the time, promising a higher paid extension, but that pay bump never came. That's definitely not allowed. But if there's no paper trail, there's no way to prove it. GMs do it all the time, but it never turns out this bad. In this era of player empowerment, where media and fans praise NBA stars for making bank in their preferred cities, you might tend to side with Harden on this one. That is, until you think about Harden's history. James Harden's incredible NBA record. This isn't the first time that Harden's fled his team in a less than stellar fashion. When he wanted out of Houston in 2020, it looked like he doubled his weight and forgot how to play basketball. The very next season with the Nets, the team he forced his way to join, he did the same thing. He stopped trying, milked injuries, and literally gave up in the middle of plays. The dude looked like he just didn't care anymore. Or someone's PS5 controller died. How can a multi-millionaire living his dream by playing a game just completely check out like that? Now he's asked away from Philly. Again, a team he forced his way to join. He officially asked to be traded away from reigning MVP Joel Embiid. That makes 3 trade requests from Harden, a former MVP. That's gotta be an NBA record. In fact, the Ringer's Bill Simmons even did the math. Congrats, James. But somehow, Harden even outdid himself this time. He opted into a $35.64 million player option for this year, knowing that he'd demand a trade. So why would he do that? Did he severely change his mind over the last few weeks? Definitely not. This is a new fad in contract negotiating. Players opt in to high-priced contracts for the sake of getting more money on the books. Only then do they force a trade. It happened with Kevin Durant last year, when he signed a player option to rejoin the Nets, then forced his way to the Suns mid-season. Dame Lillard's in the middle of a trade request right now, right after signing a massive deal. The difference? KD and Dame actually tried hard on the court. Harden is trying to force his way to Los Angeles to join Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on the Clippers. Morey offered Harden to the Clippers, reportedly for Terance Man, Norm Powell, and 2 first-rounders next year. The Clips refused to part with Man, a young kid who's shown spurts of potential. Morey rejected any counteroffers, leaving Harden in Philly. Harden rigged the system to try and get his way, and now it's getting ugly. It's not like he's the only one doing it, but he's doing it again. Now, if only there was something the NBA could do about this, right? Luckily, there absolutely is. Silver lays the hammer down. 2 years ago, Morey was in this exact same situation. He had a superstar in Ben Simmons choke in the playoffs, refuse to take any ownership over that fact, and then request a trade. Simmons became the most fined player in history when he sat out an entire season, eventually traded for, you guessed it, James Harden. The Sixers refused to pay Simmons a dime for his missed games. Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA, sided with the team. Eventually, it went to court, and they were forced to pay a small percent of his contractual salary. Just think about the insanity of that. A player signs a contract, doesn't live up to his end of the deal, and thinks he's due anything? Again, we're in a league where we praise guys for teaming up while making the most money they can. But the league is able to step in, and they have. First, they can strip a player's pay if he doesn't, play basketball. Now, that's what happened with Simmons last year. Secondly, they can fine players. While sketchy handshake deals lead to team punishments, players can get fined for public trade requests. Wait, really? Yes, it's rarely used, but per Article 6, Section 18 of the league's collective bargaining agreement with the NBA's Player Association, a player can be fined for publicly asking to be traded to a different team. It's far safer to make these demands anonymously or through the team themselves. Silver handed Harden the max fine, $100,000, for his comments after a 3-day investigation. But we still haven't gotten to the weirdest part of this drama. Harden is Morey's biggest weakness. Ever since Morey saw the young James Harden on the 2012 Thunder, just an efficient sixth man on a finals runner-up, it was love at first sight. Morey traded for Harden and let him become a star. In every conceivable way, he was the perfect player for modern basketball. He shot a lot of threes at a decent percentage. He dished the rock, he could handle the ball constantly with absurd usage rates, and more importantly, he got to the line, a lot. Harden led the league in free throws attempted and made every year from 2015 to 2020. Part of the reason he had 3 consecutive seasons scoring 30 a game. Just based on metrics, it was the perfect fit. Morey is the ultimate nerd GM. Harden is the star for the nerds. And in some ways, it worked. Houston had the 3rd best record in the league while Harden was in town, making the conference finals in both 2015 and 2018. Morey built his team around Harden, surrounding him with defensive-minded shooters and giving him bouncy centers to throw lobs to. But there are more important things than stats in the NBA. Harden notoriously no-showed elimination games, earning a reputation as a big-time choker. Despite all that, Morey pulled the trigger to bring Harden to his new team in Philadelphia to team up with Embiid. And for what it's worth, Harden did his part. He transformed from a high-usage scoring machine to a bona fide point guard, leading the league in assists this year while deferring to his buddy Embiid. The Simmons for Harden trade worked out perfectly for Morey, and he looked like a genius. Harden was incredible all season long in his lesser role, stepping up big in a few playoff games. And then when he inevitably choked in Game 7, most of the blame fell on Embiid's head. Harden and Morey together again. That's what makes it so much weirder that these two are now the center of the biggest feud in the sport. It's like a devastating reality TV breakup. But in this case, they really are made for each other. Unfortunately for Morey, that infatuation with Harden might cost him his job. Harden's effect on Philly's future. Harden has teamed up with one of the elite players in the league, your 2023 MVP, Joel Embiid. Morey knows the importance of having 2 superstars in a league like the NBA. He was one of the pioneers of advanced stats and management, piling up as many assets as possible to flip them for 2 superstars. He did it with Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady in the 2000s, then with Harden and Dwight, and Chris Paul, and Russell Westbrook in the 2010s, and now he's tried it with the Sixers. Morey knows that he cannot let Embiid walk without getting a superstar in return. But with Harden probably leaving, it seems like Embiid might do just that. Embiid said that he wants to do anything to win a title, whether that means in Philly or anywhere else. If Embiid's best teammate walks away with little to show for it, will he stay with the Sixers? And if Morey loses 3 stars in a short Sixers tenure, how can he possibly keep his job? What are Morey's next steps? Currently, there are probably 2 people in the world who thinks James Harden is still a superstar. Harden himself and Jeff Teague. Morey doesn't think so, otherwise he would have signed him to a max. The Clippers don't think so, otherwise they would have parted ways with Man. As great of a player as Harden once was, and as well as he's been able to transfer into this new stage of his career, he's just not that guy anymore. He's well into his 30s, it happens. Now, Morey wants Man for one reason, to pile up assets. He wants to have as much talent on his team as possible so he can flip them for a second star. But that's not going to happen. Harden gets paid way too much to get a favorable deal. Last time Morey was rightfully stubborn enough to not deal a whining star for too little, he ended up with Harden. Not Tyrese Halliburton, not Dom Sabonis. Harden, Morey's Achilles heel. Morey needs to dump Harden fast and move on with Embiid as the lone star. He needs to surround his MVP with mature vets who bring out the best of him, hopefully getting rid of the trust the process mentality that's been following the franchise for a decade. Philly is a desirable enough team to attract another star in the near future, but the longer this toxic drama goes on, the more he risks alienating the superstar he does have, and the longer Philadelphia will have to wait to win another title. Whose side are you on in this beef? Harden? Morey? A little of both? Let us know in the comments, then check out one of these videos next. Listen to the Wrong Opinion, Useless NBA Trivia, and Garbage Rankings for more NBA content.